Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Wow, what a day! As you can see, I was coming in not very late, but late enough, to be a Toastmasters, to be very prompt. Unfortunately, I still have to work on the time management there, especially with the new situation. As you heard, my title today is Foster Children, and as Janai added, for the love of them. Let me begin with a little bit of why and how I began to understand foster children. When I was 16, I took an early childhood class in my high school. This early childhood class is a class I believe should be mandatory. Unfortunately, it was elective. It was an elective, and I knew at that time I wanted to be a teacher. So I took the class as many years as you were able to take it, which was 3. You're not allowed to take the class as a freshman. I then began my education for early childhood. As I became older, I started babysitting. As I began babysitting, I became the neighborhood babysitter. But not just the babysitter, I also learned to work with special needs children. I learned to work with cerebral palsy at the age of 16. I learned to work with ADHD, known as attention deficit hyperactive disorder. As I began to progress in age, I continued to work with children. When I moved here to California, I heard of a group home, and that's where I began one of my first jobs here in California, and that is with highly disabled children in the manner of behavior. There's different levels. There's level 10, 11, 12, and the higher the level, the severity of the behavior. This is not an easy job. If you ever see in the newspaper, certain group homes are constantly hiring, constantly. This is because the workers need to be able to tolerate being kicked, spit in your face, bitten, handling nightmares, dealing with the child telling you about sexual abuse, being starved. Some of these children were so neglected that they were found wandering the streets, digging out of garbage cans at the age of 7. Just think about that, the age of 7. Not having a mother or a father or anybody, not feeling that love or that care. I then left that group home and went to another one. Fortunately, I had some personal problems and I had to resign from that job. I knew I wanted to work with children, but I also knew I did not want to teach. But I wanted to make a difference. And I had always heard about foster care children. And I had heard a lot of negative things, a lot of negative talk, especially if you watch Lifetime, which a lot of females do if you watch TV, which is why it's probably called the Women's Channel. You will hear stories such as the ones I've just explained to you. In fact, there's a movie that came out about 4 years ago. It was titled Homeless to Harvard. It was the best movie I've ever seen presenting this type of story. And it was about a child who grew up in a family whose father was constantly on heroin. The mother was also on heroin. The apartment was disgustingly dirty. They had no food. And her job as a child was to go and find money for food for her and her sister. She then ran away. Eventually, through the story, she meets a shelter. She becomes educated, only to find out that, luckily, she is extremely smart. At the end, she becomes accepted to Harvard. That movie gives people like myself hope. There is hope for these children. There really, really is. But it doesn't take just anyone to help these children. One of the reasons I was late this evening was because I had a crisis. I was told yesterday, through miscommunication, that my foster son will be placed into a different foster home tomorrow. I was given less than 48 notice. The reason was because when he sees his biological mother, he cries. That was not true. I was not happy about this. Unfortunately, the role of a foster parent is not to advocate for children, or at least not right now. There is no law. Right now, the way the government wants to work is if you are a foster parent through a foster agency, you work with the foster agency, you do not work with the county. There is a lot of miscommunication. Today we got that resolved. And I found out that that was not why he's being placed. He's being placed because he does have a special needs problem and the services are not available over here. And since the plan is for the siblings to all be reunited to their mother who does live in Mendocino County, they will keep him over there for that purpose. Being a foster parent is very tough because you are told to treat these children as your own. Love them. Care for them. And then they tell you, don't advocate for them. It's not your place. It's not your place. We don't care. You're not a professional. You have no psychology background as far as we're concerned. I happen to have a background in psychology and child care. They don't care what I have to say. Fortunately, I found out today they're changing that. I will be getting a piece of paper where I can document my observations, and they will be putting that into the case. So when you hear about how foster children, especially the older ones, are so abusive, or the ones that turn out in gangs, or the ones that are negative or violent, just think. They probably really don't want to know any better because they felt that nobody cared, and they don't know why they should. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Could I ask for a minute to write our observations down for Laura?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've gone through that too. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, there's a lot of miscommunication, but I made a mistake about it.
The agencies don't understand what advocacy really is.
No, they don't. And the agencies and CPS are warring. They don't like each other. They don't want to work together.
Well, advocacy.
Louis, she needs a,
Take one off here.
Well, I made a mistake.
They don't have to be in order.
I was like, you guys are contradicting yourself, and I'm not playing the power game, I'm not playing the manipulation game.
Just care about the kids. Thank you. Can we have a timer's report, please?
Do we have another speaker?
Oh, you want to wait till the end of both speeches?
It's up to you. You're the
Things up
Toastmaster.
a little bit. Go ahead. Go ahead. Just give it to us now.
Madam Toastmaster, I'd be honored. Laura's speech, 7 minutes, 20 seconds. Very well.
All right.
Very good.
You're it.
There you go.
Thanks.